Hello everyone, for this tutorial video I like to explain how capacitors work in series and parallel, which will be important later on when we analyze circuits involving capacitors in combination with other parts. In particular, when capacitors are in a series like this, the total capacitance is less than the individual capacitances, which might make sense if you imagine it as a longer distance from the positive end of one capacitor to the negative end of the other capacitor, as opposed to the shorter distance of one capacitor individually. And we know from the previous tutorial, a longer distance means less capacitance. So now, we should also see that for parallel circuits, the total capacitance is greater than the individual capacitances, which again makes sense if you think about it as the total field being longer in a parallel circuit versus one individual capacitor, because of the fact electric fields can travel long distances, so they do not actually care about the gaps between each branch in a parallel circuit. Although this is not related to parallel and series capacitors, it is one last important detail about capacitors to note before we talk about magnetism in the next video, which is that very specific capacitors are polarity sensitive, and these are called electrolytic capacitors, because of how they use electrolyte substances similar to how batteries work. And in fact, they look very similar to batteries. The reason why you have to pay attention to the polarity for these capacitors in particular is that if you reverse the direction of the current, it will break down the dielectric, and therefore most likely cause it to short out or otherwise fail. Although of course it is always a good idea to pay attention to polarity when designing any circuit, it is just even more true for circuits involving this capacitor. In my next tutorial video, I'd like to give a brief introduction to what magnets are, before I explain their applications in electrical technologies like fan motors. Don't forget to subscribe if you found this video informative, and make sure to see other tutorial videos, and follow me on either Facebook or Twitter for more content.